back to my channel. If you're here today, obviously we're here to talk about these beauties right behind me, my DIY boucle ottoman stools. I'll show you how I made these for just $13. $13 for both of them, might I add. Let's just jump right into it. I got 2 ottomans for free off of Facebook Marketplace. Obviously they're not in good condition, so I'm going to be reupholstering them and trying to achieve a boucle look. So let's get started. Obviously my first step is I am going to be taking the fabric off. I just need to unscrew the lids right now. Okay, so now that I've unscrewed this, the fabric is stapled along the edges here, and this little string is to pull the knob in forward in the middle. I don't really want that knob there, so I'm gonna be trying to see if I can get rid of that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take out all these staples. To do that, I'm just taking the flathead on my screwdriver, and I'm literally just going in under the screws to lever up, and then I will be using these pliers then to get the screws out. Not screws, the nails. One down, a lot to go. I have successfully removed all of the staples, as you can see here, and now I'm just going to cut this string that is pulling this middle piece in because I don't want that on mine. And it should hopefully be as simple as cutting it and then being able to pull this guy out. Okay, so now I should be able to just take this cover off. As easy as that. This is what I'm left with. It's just a board with some foam on, and right now I have this big massive hole from where the bit was pulled in, so I'm gonna see if I have anything that's fluffy at all that can kind of fill in that spot and make it a flat top. I'm also gonna give this a good vacuum because there's a bunch of cat fur on this. I am allergic to cats. I don't know how I'm not sneezing off of this, but I want this to be as clean and new and fresh as possible, so we're gonna do that as well. So conveniently enough, the old fabric had this white floofy stuff that obviously went flat along like this. But I'm almost debating if I just crumple it up, place it in the middle there, if that will help with my situation. For the underside here, I'm just gonna go ahead and unscrew all these legs, and then there's this, what do we call it, black little whatever fabric to make it look nicer. I'm gonna take out all the staples in that, and then I will unstaple the bottom here. I was screwing this forever. Turns out it's just a little nail. No wonder why that took me so long. It seems really weird for legs. I've never seen them just like nailed it like that before. I guess they aren't really supposed to be taken apart though, so that could be part of it. Okay, so I want to leave this black bottom bit intact. I'm gonna try and put it back on afterwards, so I need to be careful. Like there aren't too many screws here. So this is where we're at with the bottom. So now I am going to take out, once again, all the staples for the gray fabric. I'm not gonna lie, this is quite the workout. Mostly just holding my arm up at this height, but you know what? Just keep powering through. And then I'm gonna have some beautiful boucle ottoman stools for very, very cheap, and it's all gonna be worth it, and everyone's gonna be happy. It's gonna be a great time. Definitely gets easier once you get like a good system. And I'm saying my little flathead screwdriver hack is actually doing pretty dang good. Pliers are definitely gonna be very helpful and a necessity. Would recommend. I am covered in cat fur just from like touching this. And now what I'm gonna have to do is, this is pretty tight, so I want to, ooh, this is really gross. Roll, I'm gonna take off the old fabric. This is what the inside, the top looks like. It looks like the outside fabric here is actually stitched to this inside lining. I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do about that. I think I'll probably just unpick the stitch line out here and then make a game plan from there. First, I think it's easiest if this is off, question mark, potentially. Okay, bare bones. So I definitely want to keep that black inside lining, so I am going to go ahead and unstitch this black part from the gray fabric. I'm going to keep the black part in there. I'm not going to bother taking it out. Unfortunately for me, I don't have a stitch picker, so I'm just going to have to use these scissors and be really careful and see if I can try and pull this all apart here. Usually all you need is just to get it going, and then if you're strong enough or the stitch is not strong enough, then you should be able to just rip it apart. It looks like it was stitched quite a bit, so I'm gonna cut cut it because it looks like I'm ripping the black bit here. Pull out all the extra strings. I just want to preface, I'm taking a lot of extra steps right now. I don't really need to be, like, this could just be done by putting the fabric over the old stuff. I just wanted a really clean start just because this obviously did have a lot of cat fur. I am allergic to cat fur. I have the black fabric separated. It's not glued down or anything or attached, like it's just flippy floppy in there. So I'm gonna give these ottomans a quick vacuum first, make sure there's no dust and cat fur, because there's a lot of cat fur. And then it's gonna be ready to be recovered. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I have my like cylindrical piece that goes around the main part of the ottoman. I am literally just cutting down. This one has seams, it has 4 seams around. I am going to be cutting out just a straight line down the middle so I can have it as a rectangle instead of one circular piece, just so I can measure out how much fabric I will be needing. And since I don't care about this fabric anymore, I'm not gonna worry about picking the seam. I'm literally just gonna cut straight down. So I have my first piece here of what I need to be measuring. Obviously it's a new day. I am wearing sunglasses because it is extremely bright in my living room. I don't wanna close the blinds because then you can't see when I'm filming, so I'm just gonna wear sunglasses so my eyes don't die. Also because I think I look pretty cool. Anyways, moving on to the new fabric of what I will be covering my ottoman stools with. I was going to look for boucle fabric. I went to the fabric store and there wasn't really anything, first of all, that was boucle in general, and I couldn't even find anything in like similar, like a kind of Sherpa material that had the right colors I was going for or the right texture. I just didn't find anything I really liked or was even close enough. And then I came up with this brilliant idea. I knew that IKEA had this blanket. If you can see kind of up close, it kind of has this boucle vibe to it. To make it even better, this blanket's only like $15, I think, at IKEA new. It's called the Valley, I think. I don't know, I might have botched that pronunciation, but whatever. I ended up finding it on Facebook Marketplace. This girl bought it, literally brand new, never used it, for $7. So, I mean, who's gonna complain about that? I then went to go test this fabric. It is like a little bit thin. You can see my hands through it. So then I went and tested it on top of like the foam on the ottoman, and you could see the yellow foam through it, and it's like pretty thin, and I wanted to make sure that this foam was going to be more protected this time. So then I went to the thrift store and just got an old bed sheet. It's not a white bed sheet, it's like kind of like a very off-white creamy color. It was a twin size because that's all the fabric I was going to need for, I think this was $6, so a total of $13 I got my fabric, which is honestly way cheaper than I was expecting to spend. So right now I'm feeling real good. I'm really not worried about how these turn out because the ottomans are free and I spent $13 so far. I've just laid my fabric out flat and I have the piece that goes around the barrel, and I'm just gonna go and cut 2 of these pieces because I have 2 ottomans. Well, 2 ottomans. I'm gonna do that first, and I have lots of extra material to cut out the circles for the top, but I'm going to do this first. So my plan with this is I'm going to cut exactly the same shape because this already includes all the fabric that was folded underneath and over top and stapled. The only thing I will be doing is on one of the ends here, I will be allowing for about 1 inch of a seam allowance because I do need to reconnect the fabric into a circle again. And because I don't need this to be super exact, I'm not gonna bother pinning the old fabric to the new fabric. Okay, so now for the circle top, I decided it would actually probably be easier just to trace the circle. I'm just gonna leave like quite a bit of an allowance to fold underneath the top. I'm just gonna cut a rough circle around here, probably giving myself like a 4-inch margin. Okay, so I have my first circle, and what I've done is I've just folded it in half and then in half again. And then what I did is just tried to clean up the circle line here by cutting along just to make it a little bit more even. And now what I've done is I've taken a square piece of fabric, well, kind of square, folded it into quarters like I just did with this circle here, and I'm going to use my first draft and use this to trace the next circle. I also tested the first circle on one of the ottoman tops to make sure that it was the right size. As you can see, I have a ton of extra fabric, which is good. That's what I wanted, because I wanted it to be able to come underneath here, really be taut and pulled underneath. And because because we have this little piece here on the bottom afterwards, I really wanted the fabric to come underneath this black piece just to make it look a little bit cleaner and more professional, I guess I'll say. Great, good stuff. Also gotta check the barrel. Okay, and I can see I have just enough here for about half an inch. Hopefully it won't be too noticeable once I have the upper fabric on top. Okay, so now that everything is good, I'm gonna go get my sewing machine. We're gonna sew that little piece for the barrel, and that's basically all the sewing that I'm gonna need to do. If you don't own a sewing machine, don't know how to sew, whatever, you could always hand sew it. You could also fabric glue it. You can maybe even staple it to the side of the barrel. Yeah, also depends on the shape of your item. I don't know, you could have a square and just do like each side as a panel. Really depends, but I'm sure you could get creative. Also, completely side note, self-plug, check out my canvas behind. I made it. If you want to see how I made it, check out my YouTube video. I will link it up above. Hello, we are in my office now. I'm going to quickly just pin this all. I'm not even gonna bother pinning it. I am doing this super non-exact just because I know it doesn't really need to be. Oh, absolutely blessed. I've already used this thread, so I already have a bobbin. Thank you, Past Emma. Mwah. Honestly, I'm not even gonna bother pinning this. I'm literally just gonna feed it straight through. It's straight line. This fabric's also a little stretchy, so I'm really not worried about it being super exact. But first, I'm definitely gonna need to plug my sewing machine in. And we are done. It was that easy. What it looks like. If this works, then I'll just quickly do the other one, and that is literally all the sewing that will be done in this DIY. The fact that this is nice and tight means that I did it right. Look at that beauty. It would have been really smart of me to try and line up where the phone lines up and I'm gonna do that. Let's not get lazy. Let's do this properly. Not a big deal with this layer, but I am gonna try and make sure that I put my right side out on the right side, obviously. So the seams should be on the inside. So I'm gonna line the seam of the foam with the seam of my fabric. Might as well put all the lines together, you know? Amazing. And it fits. We are good boys and girls. I would definitely say go as tight as you can. It will look more professional, look like the fabric was made for the ottoman. I think that already looks so much better than the OG fabric. No offense to the cat that absolutely tore that ottoman to shreds. Not really my vibe. So I have this IKEA blanket here that I'm about to cut out, but because this one is a lot smaller than that first twin blanket that I did cut up for my underneath material, I have to make sure that I have enough fabric, so I made sure to lay out all the pieces I need. A new day, same shirt. I only wore it for a couple hours yesterday, so not that gross. Anyways, I finally have staples for my stapler. It was a little bit of an ordeal. I ended up trying like 4 different staples before I found the right size. Yeah, that really puzzled me for a bit. Apparently there is a difference in heavy duty and light duty staples. Learned that the hard way. That's okay. We'll have to excuse the plethora of noises behind me. I have the dishwasher going and the laundry machine going, but I really want to get these ottomans done. So we're just gonna have to pick our battles because I also have a toddler who's probably gonna wake up soon, and staple guns and toddlers seems like a really bad mix. We're just gonna staple down the under layer. Make sure that you have enough fabric on each side to go where you need it to go, obviously all the way underneath, and here on the top I need it to go all the way over the lip and then underneath here. Instead of putting your piece of fabric down like this, you want to make sure that both sides are split. It'll just make it fold a little bit easier. When you're putting your fabric on, it might not do that all the way, so I am literally using a chopstick and making sure that the seams are split nice and evenly. It'll just lay a little bit flatter on your ottoman. I'm using this staple gun. My brother and sister-in-law lent it to me, hence why I was so confused by which size staples I needed. I'm going to start with the top first because that's the part I'm going to see when I open up. With a circle, what I'm going to do to make sure that it's like as even as possible, because we're going to have bunching as it goes around the barrel, is I'm just going to go opposing. So I'm going to do this side, then this side, then this side, then this side, making sure that the fabric is bunching nice and evenly as I go all the way around. You can see for the most part it's pretty flat along here. So now I'm gonna flip it underneath. And I'm also gonna pull the fabric as tight as I can to make sure that it is nice and taut. This bottom material, it's like a plywood, I think. So it is a little bit harder for this staple gun. I don't think it's quite heavy enough duty. I'm gonna go get a hammer and tap in the staples because I don't know if you can tell, they're just poking out a little bit. Now I'm doing the top layer, and if you remember, we did have this black fabric on the inside. I'm going to be putting this white fabric over, and then I'm going to put the black fabric over top and staple it so that we have this nice clean black line all the way along the lip. And I'm going to be doing the same method, going back and forth, making sure that the fabric's all evenly placed. And I'm also making sure, once again, that the bottom here has enough to go underneath the lip. The nice thing is worst case scenario, you just have to unstaple and re-staple your fabric, but it's just like extra work that you don't really need for yourself. See, now this black has a really nice clean line on the inside. Obviously the staples are visible as opposed to before this black bit was sewn to the fabric. Obviously that was going to be way too difficult to sew a nicely perfect circle by hand, also still attached to the ottoman. But I think this looks pretty good. Now I obviously just need to staple the bottom. I'm going to start at my seam just to make sure that seam is stapled a perfect straight line that is perpendicular to the ground. And before I stapled this black bit on, I remembered I had little legs that went on these, so I just went and found the hole in the black mesh, put the leg through, and then found the hole on the fabric and quickly just poked this through. And theoretically, the rest of the leg should line up. We'll see if that is actually the case and I did this right. You're so helpful. Okay, so now I have to cover the top. Thank you. My lovely assistant Avery is here to help me. There was that little button that's here, so now there's obviously an indent. I have this little extra bits of floof that I'm just gonna put in that little spot there just to fill the little hole so it's not like a little gaping circle. I don't even think I need this much floof. You could probably just use something like cotton ball. Here I have my nice little circle. I'm probably gonna end up cutting some of this excess fabric off. I just want to make sure everything's looking nice and tight. I finished stapling. You can see I have like a circle right around here. Everything's all bunched up on this side, but it's nice and flat and even on this side. I definitely cut myself too big of a circle. Definitely rather too big than too small, but I think I'm going to cut all this extra fabric off. Obviously it takes up a lot of room. Okay, so we've got that all cut off now. We got the top layer done. Here's kind of what it looks like on the front. Okay, so now that we're done, I'm just gonna screw back on this black board here. Hopefully my screws are long enough because this fabric definitely pushes up a little bit more than the last fabric did. You're so helpful. Yep, thank you. It's a few weeks later now. I wanted to test these out and see if they're gonna hold up against time and against a toddler. They did. I've had so many compliments on these stools. No one's been able to tell that these are DIY. Like, they look store-bought, which is a compliment if you DIY something. Everything is held up against time. The fabric is holding up. It's not pilling. It looks great. I put the ottomans right here in my entryway. I just have like this big hallway that's like our closet for coats and stuff like that. It's really easy to just pull one of these out here to take a seat on, to put shoes on and put them back. I think these ottomans really elevate the look of this entry hall table, and all around I think it just really ties that little corner together and makes it feel very homey.